Hello. Good evening. Nice to see you. To see you nice. I hope you're all having a beautiful evening wherever you are. Most people in lockdown, I'm sure. Yes. Okay, so let's get started. Let's get the show on the road. So first of all, I'll tell you how it works. I do this talk on YouTube, so maybe you're watching live now, but maybe some of you are watching the recorded version. If you ever wonder how to watch it, you just go to my YouTube channel at 6 p.m. French time. The reason that I say French time is because you might be watching this in 6 months' time, and then if I say like Central European time or something, it might not be Central European time anymore. The difficulties with our time zone changes. So sorry, I'm trying to find Skype to open it. So you go to YouTube and you watch it at 6 p.m. And normally I don't come on till about 10 past 6. I wait for people to get their notifications and to get on here. So it's normally just like coming soon, dun, 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 and that beautiful music. And then I do a little bit of an introduction like I'm doing now, and then we start meditating maybe about 6:15, and then that's for about 20 minutes, so maybe 7:30 or 25 to 7. I start and do an introduction, and then about 7 o'clock I do questions and answers. And I just want to tell you a bit about how you do questions and answers. You can write to me on Skype. It doesn't matter if I'm talking. I haven't got the sounds on, so it doesn't affect us. So you can write on Skype and you can write your question out. But if you want me to call you, just put call me and then don't put another line under that, because you know how you've got your chat. I look at the chat, and lately I've been more drawn to speaking to people rather than to reading questions. So just put call me and no line underneath, so I can see in the chat people that want to call. And if you want to call in, you need to have a headset with a microphone and a good internet connection and a quiet space, so it's not uncomfortable for other listeners. And you can also practice Skype if you've not used it before. If you go up to Skype and video and audio settings, so click on Skype in your top bar, audio and video settings, and then you'll see test call. You scroll down, you see test audio, make a free test call, so you can make sure that it's all working in there. Yeah, you can write that anytime during my talk, that's okay. Yes, and if you want to book sessions with me, I just give an announcement, because my booking app, I do it through a Wix app, and it's got a bug at the moment, and they're attempting to fix it, but it is taking a rather long time. Basically, if you click on, it says there are no sessions available, come back at another time. But it's just that there's no sessions available that month. So if you click through the months, you'll see that there are sessions available. They're just fixing that bug. Yeah, so you can still book sessions. And I might be doing a retreat this year at the end of June, dependent on Corona, the 22nd and 29th of June. I haven't got my phone here, but that is the goal. Yes, I can't think of anything else. So yeah, check back about that, but it's going to be like, I'm not going to take deposits till May. So until May, I'm not going to say whether it's going ahead or not, because I don't want people booking tickets or paying deposits when we really don't know with this coronavirus. I suspect by June Europe will be open up, because it will be the summer, the vaccines will kicked in a bit. But who knows? Okay, what else? So we do the meditation now. So with the meditation, there is nothing you have to do or have to achieve. The biggest mistake of people meditating is that they believe they have to achieve something by the end of the time sitting. And my teacher, my Buddhist teacher, was really great in really reinforcing the idea that just sitting to do the meditation, just the intention to do the meditation, is like total thumbs up. That is the business. And then what happens in the meditation is what happens, and it's not good nor bad, it's just the experience, and that's the practice of meditation. So when we meditate, I really am not suggesting that you will have some type of experience, or that you should have some type of experience, or it should be a certain way. It's a practice to help the mind settle down. Also, as a disclaimer, know that like when I'm describing how to meditate and when we're doing it, I know it seems like a prescription, like I am prescribing to you, but actually it's a happening. So there is a description appearing, and either that body will follow it or not. And the idea that that body in there is going to get enlightened from meditation is a false idea, which will most probably make you have a horrible meditation. You'll be like struggling, like, here it comes, I'm gonna get it. Here it comes. Oh no. Oh, you're such a failure. You didn't do it. Oh, here it comes. Like it's a disaster expectation. But so who is this one that's going to become enlightened? And where are you going to get to? Why is it that I meditate at the beginning of talks? It's something I've always done. Is I've always taken like 20 minutes before talks. Normally all talks, or even live talks. Maybe in live talks, because people have paid money, maybe I'm a little bit quicker. Like with the meditation, I don't take like 20, 25 minutes, maybe it's only 10 or 15 minutes, but I still do it. People are like, time is money. It's sort of a joke, sort of serious. Yeah, so it's something that's always happened. Just feels really right just to sit in silence in the beginning. And I really enjoy that. That is one thing. Yes, my love. Come on then. Up you come. Just push it out of the way. Come on. Just push it out of the way. Come on, my love. You can do it. Yes, you can. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Just push it out of the way. It's not in your way. Come on. Yeah, see, you can do it. Step, step, step. Step, step, step. Duke, duke, duke. Come on. Come, go. Yeah. What a good girl you are. Sorry. I just got totally absorbed in Khaleesi coming up then. Otherwise she just stands there and barks at me. If you have a dog, you understand this. Or maybe other people's dogs don't do that. She likes permission to come up. And then it's like, not just a little bit of permission, I have to really encourage her to come up. Otherwise she just stands there and barks at me like, poof. Super weird. It's what happens when they have walnut brains. That's apparently the size of a dog's brain. They get little stuck on certain things. Little OCD. Sorry, that makes me chuckle, the idea of her having a walnut brain. I'm sure that's really on PC nowadays to do that. Oh, the microphone's not on. Lisa, your microphone is not on, only your computer microphone is working. Oh. Hello? 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 Who are you saying to this mic? Yeah, you're right. Hello? 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 Let me just go to YouTube and see what's the problem. Hello? Hello? Let me just go to YouTube and see what's the problem. It does sound really quiet, eh? Hello? 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 Do you know, this is all I reckon from the Skype, from doing that meditation bell. Oh no. I plugged in on the wrong side. Hello. Hello. It's not that, it's me. Thank you so much, Dennis, for catching that at the beginning of my talk. You guys are so amazing. You come and you watch me every week and you know all my mistakes. So thank you, Dennis. I think that's it. Better now. Yeah, great. I'm so grateful you caught that. Okay, so where was I up to? Okay, so where was I up to? Yeah, that's good. Cool. Yes, so I was up to meditation. Sorry, this is a little chaotic at the beginning. This is often the way. Oh, that reminds me to advertise my friend Osborne's channel. He does edited video clips of my talks. So if you don't like all this faffing around, he does that every talk he edits them and puts them up on YouTube after the talk. And he might not do them in the future, but he's currently done them. And it's called Lisa Cairns Video Clips. And he does all the talks as well. So you can subscribe to that if you'd rather not see me messing around with my microphone and making mistakes. Yeah, I should put tape over the wrong side. Because so many times I've done that. I'm going to do that now, put tape over it. I plug it into the headset, and my microphone into the headset. Okay. So what was I saying about the meditation? So yeah, it's not about getting to enlightenment, because who gets enlightened? Who are you to get enlightened? I do believe that meditation for a lot of people, not for all people, but for a lot, it can help settle down the mind and help settle and calm the body-mind mechanism. But the idea that that body-mind mechanism then becomes enlightened from doing it is another idea. This is like the lost program. It's not the get program. So it's not like, oh, I meditate and then I get something. It's like the loss of the belief in anything, or this attachment to any of the beliefs, and just looking. Sorry, that was aggressive. Just experiencing. Who are you? Who are you? to get enlightened. Who? Yeah. Okay, so we shall begin now. The different meditation practices that I recommend are: number 1, the mindfulness of breathing, which is counting your breath every time you breathe in, up to 10. So when the breath goes into your nose, you count 1 and 2, 3, all the way up to 10. And then when you get 10, you start at 1 again. The other one is just sitting there, not doing anything, letting the mind wander off and think as much as it likes. Just sitting with your eyes closed. And number 3 is moving your attention back to the I am or consciousness. So just coming back to this moment, who you are right here, right now. Okay, we shall begin. The bell worked this week. Dicky, 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 dick. That's cool. Okay, so that's the end of meditation now. We shall now move on to the next section, which is the introduction. Oh yes, so I now have to introduce. Let me just remind myself what the title of the talk is. It's called Dealing with Dynamics in Relationships versus There Is No Relationship. What a great title. Why, thank you, Lisa. So I thought it was a good title because we've all been doing families for the last 2 weeks, or sort of. Maybe most people have actually been in lockdown, so they haven't been doing families. But even in lockdown, you're like maybe locked down into that day and night with your partner, working from home, your kids, or relatives. So you're in really like close quarters. So I thought that this, would be a good subject to talk about today. Relationships. So with me and Khaleesi, like I can think about Khaleesi. However, she can't really think about me. She maybe can have some like vague images of me, but she can't think about me because she doesn't think. She doesn't have language, so she doesn't think. There's some form of thinking, but it's not like human thinking. So she can't think, oh look, there comes Lisa, is she going to give me some chicken? Or Lisa's been in a bad mood today, or Lisa's very kind today, or Lisa's being very passive aggressive today, or why does Lisa do that? It's so annoying, or I love it when she does that, or why doesn't she tickle me more? I love to be tickled. She can't think about these types of things. So in a way, our relationship's very simple, except I can't sit and watch a beautiful sunset with her and be like, oh, Khaleesi, isn't that really beautiful? She can't appreciate things like that. And I can't say to her, look, Khaleesi, if you don't behave like that, then you'll be able to do this. I can't explain or reason with her. So I have to like teach her by pleasure, pain, I suppose. So when she does something good, I give her a biscuit. Actually, that's not true, biscuit, it's a piece of chicken. And when she does something bad, she doesn't get a piece of chicken, and she might go, I don't want to do it too loud. Or yep, she's looking, she heard that. Yeah, I'm not a you, EC, I'm not growling at you. So in a way, it makes it very simple because it doesn't go into many dimensions, our relationship. And I don't blame her. I don't think, oh, she's got free will and that she should be behaving differently. I don't, when she does a naughty thing, I don't think, oh, why did you do that? You should have done something else. Maybe some people think that about their dogs. Why are you being a bad girl? It's just like, oh, that's what she does. And yeah, that's it. But when we have relationships with humans, it becomes more complicated because we've got the ability to speak and to think. So I could say or think about my friend, you're not being very nice today, or you're in a bad mood today, or you're not very compassionate, or you're not being empathetic, or when you treat me like that, it feels passive aggressive. So I could say that to my friend. So we could then have a conversation about what we did, whose fault it was, whose fault it wasn't. We could have arguments about, if we shared an apartment, like what rug to buy, or what sofa to buy. And she might like something and I might like something else, and then we might discuss our communication techniques, and she might not be pleased with my communication techniques, or I might not be pleased with hers. And this is where it becomes more complex, the ability to go into time and to recognize each other's dynamics. Because in the end, that's not who we are. And so if I were to say to my friend, you're being passive aggressive, that's not really what she's being, that's just what it appears. Firstly, it might not be true, it might be my projection. And then secondly, it's not true because that's not what's really happening. There's only this happening, and that action is coming from the divine. It's not hers. And it's also not happening. There's just this moment. So there's like these two different worlds. And it feels to me now, although I might change my mind again in the future, and I know I've changed my mind in the past, but it feels to me now that you have to balance both. When I first started speaking, I'd had this massive shift, and I was just so in love with what was happening. I didn't give the time where relationships exist much heedance, is that the right word? Much reverence or much thought. So if a thought came up about someone's behavior, or what, I didn't like something, it was so easy for me to just bliss out in the present moment, and all of that disappeared. And I think that's really beautiful, and we often go through stages of this because it's like clearing something out, or it's healing. But it's like if you don't what's that famous saying? When the master's not at home, the monsters come in. The master's not home, the monsters can come in, or something like this. So there's also the problem that if you don't take care a little bit of the timeline, then you can get yourself into difficult situations. Like in one way, it doesn't matter because it's all love. So it's all this moment and it's all love. But if you keep ignoring relationships and ignoring dynamics in the relationship, they'll just grow. In the beginning, I had the sense that if I just ignored it, like it was all falling into love. So if someone was behaving not so well, and it was because it was all falling into love, they would eventually see that, and their dynamics would improve or change. So that was my theory on it, that I couldn't have been more wrong. Like, it's actually kind of the opposite, because ironically, in psychology, the mother, when the child is like 1 or 2 or 3 years old, or maybe 1 or 2, is total unconditioning love, and so is the father. They're these unconditional love figures, And then as they begin to get older, the parents begin to teach the child that there's behaviors that aren't desirable and there's behaviors that are desirable. And when I was doing that, I realized I fell into this psychology of the mother and the child. So it would attract children that wanted to act out to their mother to see if they were loved. So it's like they would behave really badly to see and test the unconditional love. Not that they were conscious of that, it's an unconscious thing, but because I became I wasn't paying attention to relationships and addressing things that manifested in my life. I think also it's really beautiful, like this unconditional love, but there has to be some examination of the time and the timeline and what's happening in relationships and those dynamics. So if I'm just blissing out in the absolute, I can't really, like when somebody's acting like a child, like and really trying to push your limits, you can't really see it because everything is love. It's just bliss. That sounds really crazy, but it's just love. Like all their movements are love. What you can notice in your body is maybe an aversion to it, so there's a pushing away. But the thing is if you're really blissed out in the moment, there might not even be the impulse to push it away, because even the pushing away, so that pushing away is considered love, so you don't really act out on it, it's just bliss. So it's so funny in a way. Like if we were in a whole society where everyone was woken up, maybe it could be more of like totally blissing out in the no place land. But when you're interacting with other humans, you have to an extent, understand the games. And your games, like your human will have games as well. So also my tendency is to be, when people are pushing my boundaries, I can become really passive. I can be so active in all my life and really like fiery and energetic and confident, but there's some trauma in my body where if somebody has a particular dynamic with me, I can become really passive. Maybe not as passive as other people, maybe other people wouldn't even notice it's passivity, but there is a passivity there. So it also like plays into this dynamic, the blissing out. And this is the delicate balance of non-duality. It's like waking up, like bathing in that love of what you are, and that nothing matters, no relationship matters, there's no empathy, there's no other, there is no badness, there is only the divine, absolute divinity. And at the same time being able to navigate this society and other people. And so I found that what had to happen to me was to get really slapped around the face. And maybe it's still happening to an extent. There's still some working out of how to deal with humans and how to live this in a society that's identified. And that slapping around the face. So because I ignored dynamics, so if you've got a kid that's acting out on you, pushing you to see if you love them unconditionally, and because I ignored that, like obviously their actions became more and more extreme until it became like a bomb, and then suddenly I'm involved in this like explosion. And that was really amazing lesson and incredibly painful as well, and disheartening, because I had most probably attached in some way to this idea that like if you just are in that love that it will soften humans. And I think it did. Like I think there was a healing element to it too, and I can also see that like my body was getting triggered in dynamics as well simultaneously, but I was so blissed out, you kind of like You can get triggered, or your body can behave in a certain way, and you still can't really notice it. It sounds crazy, but you're not thinking, you're not self-aware really. There's just this bliss. And then it's like this body is like having emotions or feelings inside this big infinite space of love, and it becomes very unimportant in a way. And then you can see the other person's feelings. And also I'm an empath, so whenever I interact with someone, I pick up their feelings, their wants, their emotions. So there's also this confusion that happens as well, which I still have to navigate. Or maybe some people, you could call it something more extreme than an empath. It's being able to feel other people's feelings as if they're your own, and sometimes their thoughts as well, and their wants and their needs and their desires. So if I come too close to someone, it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens a lot, then it's like we hold this energy around our body, and it's like when my energy mixes with theirs, I feel them as if they're me. There's no difference between me and them. I call it empathy because I think that's what some other people call it, like an empath. But I just feel that we all have this energy around us, but I don't think that everyone can feel it. Like, I don't even think if you wake up you feel it. I don't think it's to do with that. It's to do with your sensitivity. So that's also something that I have to be conscious of on a thinking level. To navigate that. And I think that some people might call what I was doing bypassing. It's hard to see it as bypassing because bypassing sounds such a negative thing, and it was so blissful. Like it was so much love, but it was not paying enough attention to dynamics in relationships. So some people that are listening to me might need to go more to that no place. And then once they've gone to that no place, then their dynamics become more simple. And then they begin to become conscious of their dynamics more. So maybe what I did was a natural progression. It's like I went to the absolute. I stayed in the absolute for quite a few years. And then I came to like the absolute and embracing the person as well. So maybe some of you listening need to go to the absolute and have like big doses of that, so that can become really clear and that's really seen and that's really obvious in every moment, and then coming back to address the person. And it's not simple relationships. There's no easy answer to it. It's not like you wake up and there's an easy answer. There's an easy answer in this moment. It's all love and it doesn't matter, and it's all stories. Like me and Khaleesi do not have a complex relationship. She's like, feed me, woman, now. And then I'm like, okay. Woman, walk me. Woman, walk me, now. Woman, I want up on the bed. Woman, where's my chicken? That's how our relationship goes. And then every so often I beg her for a cuddle. And then sometimes she allows it. Sometimes I impose it and she's like, oh. And then other times she enjoys it. Can I have a cuddle, Khaleesi? Yeah, so that's a very simple relationship. And in a way, if we couldn't speak or think of our relationships on human level would be very easy. But because we can, we have these invented characters which we communicate having free will, but they don't actually have free will. So my mum might phone up and say, can you bring around some sugar? And then it appears that I've got free will because I seem to be able to then go and pick up some sugar and then drive it around to her house. And this is where it becomes more complex, because then we can speak about behaviors and dynamics and aggression and traumas. So most of us are acting out of traumas or like not such integrated psychology. And I'm not excluding myself. I see that Lisa still has traumas. They're a lot lighter than what they used to, but I can see that I can get activated into like passivity or over explaining myself sometimes, like over like over explaining because, in a conflict, because I want them to understand, because I think that they won't understand, or something like this, or getting like all these types of things that we pick up in childhood and which are conditions of the body. And everybody has these conditions, and if they're like really dysfunctional, then your life is going to be really hard, because your life is going to reflect back that. If you've got like really dysfunction, sometimes your life is really chaotic and hard, not because you've got difficult dynamics, but often it's because there's difficult dynamics and traumas acting out. So if you've been really traumatized by your mom and dad or something, or relationships, then maybe you keep acting that out in relationships again, and you keep getting proven again and again that people can't be trustworthy or something. And it's a very bodily thing. Like, these dynamics are very bodily. When there's lots of identification with the person, then it becomes very mental. So the bodily feeling is there, so the impulse to over-explain something is there, but then it becomes a very mental idea, like lots of stories. They won't believe me, they will believe me, blah, 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 whatever it is. Or they don't understand, nobody sees me, and it goes into stories and you get really fixated on it. And then this like encourages the feeling in the body, so this sort of elongates it and makes it feel really bad, because you keep repeating stories that are uncomfortable, or you're angry with someone, or there's hatred towards someone, and that's when there tends to be identification and then seeking on top of that this complex thinking happens and emerges. But our bodies naturally have these impulses in which we've been trained to have. So if you had parents that really didn't give you enough attention, maybe you become really self-sufficient and you never look to anyone for attention or something. That could be one way of behaving. And this is a really ingrained dynamic in your body. Your body will naturally choose to be remote, and even waking up, it might even choose to be remote more. It might choose to be more social, but this will be very ingrained. It's like day after day for years and years of living with parents that reinforce that story. And that's a bodily thing. That's no longer a mental thought. But that dynamic might bring around lots of mental activity. So there's identification with the body-mind. So there's identification with that dynamic. And then there's lots of like moaning about people crossing our boundaries and coming too close, and why don't they leave me alone, and yak, 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 yak. Why am I always in this situation again? All these types of things. When it's really seen not to be you, then it's just a happening and it's nobody's fault. It's the way in which you were grown. Just like the way a tree grows in a forest, it has to bend and curve to all the undergrowth that's around it. And it will be marked by it, by whatever it came against. If there was another big tree around it, maybe it had to bend around that tree. Yes. But none of these dynamics are who you are. Who you are is this moment, which none of it matters. It doesn't matter if you can be passive aggressive or get activated by this or not activated by that, or in fear about this. Like right now, there is no person. Right now, there is freedom. You are free. None of it really matters. There isn't really another person there. It just seems like there is. There's movement and actions happening. But there isn't really another person there. There's just freedom. Like this is consciousness or no-thingness looking at no-thingness. And even though we can speak about dynamics in the imagination and in time, it's really not happening. There's just this moment. Okay, I take some questions now. Hey Carla, Happy New Year, thank you. Saying that. And you too, as well. Hey Nick. Okay, we have a caller. So layered. Hello.
I'm trying to turn off my YouTube.
Yeah, no hurry. Thank you. Hey, nice to see you.
Thank you. Great, fantastic talk, Lisa. First of all, much love and protection to you and your viewers, and I'm just so, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I won't stay on long, just enough. I don't have any from beginning to end plan what I want to say. Just to say the last couple of days has been very challenging for me with relationships. And I like what you said, that much of the way we react and formulate our expectations and so forth could have been set in our upbringing. And I know how true that is. And the other point that I like what you said is I like how to transcend it all, to go beyond relationships and just go beyond who I think I am to just that pure awareness. Yeah. And I know I'm not going to always feel that every day, and I'm not going to become enlightened, and I'm going to be permanently in that position. But I'm getting to a point in my life where at least I appreciate what that is, and it really helps put a balance to my emotional disappointments and things like that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, when we're identified, what happens is that the body-mind mechanisms becomes very close in our experience. So waking up to me is an energetic expansion. So you shift from being contracted and inside the body to being the space, and then the body arising in that. So it's like, you could say there is then distance to the body-mind mechanism. In one way, you could say it becomes more intimate because you feel it more, you're not in the head so much. But in another way, there is this distance to it, like it's like one part of you rather than before it was all of you. And when that happens, the chakras become too important. So your emotional body becomes too important. And you're too dependent on the sensation of pleasure and pain of the chakras for your happiness. So then it becomes important. So say if you were going to do something with your partner and then your partner changes their mind and they don't want to do it anymore and there's lots of disappointment. That disappointment is too big in your experience, and then it becomes overwhelming, and then your mind often fixates in it, and then there's seeking in time. So, and that's the difficulty about the identification is that focus on your emotional body and on your emotions and on the expectation of pleasure. And it's just coming back to see that none of that is true. So it's good to address things, so to be able to speak to your partner honestly about disappointments or about what happened, and for them to try to speak openly and honest about it. But that again is going to be dependent on the way you're conditioned and your karma. You can also recondition yourself in psychology, and but it's a long process. Reconditioning our instantaneous responses is a long process. Also knowing everything you think and feel and everything they think and feel isn't truth. It's only what your body projects. And that's okay, what your body projects. So you might project that they're in a bad mood with you or they're angry with you. And they might project that you're angry or in a bad mood with them. And maybe they feel afraid and maybe you feel dismissed. Maybe it's not anger, but that's what your body mind projects, and that's totally valid in its projection. You don't need to dismiss that. It's like, that's what I'm projecting, is that you feel angry at me. That's my current truth. But just knowing at the same time that everything you think and feel isn't the absolute truth. It's just what's happening, and your body mind and your thoughts about situations are never going to be absolutely correct. In reality, I don't know is the best, but we have to communicate. So you have to have opinions in order to communicate. You have to have definition around your character in order to have relationships. But so you can't just always be an I don't know if you have a relationship. Otherwise, it's like it doesn't really go anywhere. It reminds me of like a square wheel, like if you say I don't know. But it's also like the truth, because we don't really know. So if somebody said to me, you behaved to me yesterday aggressively, it might internally have not felt like that for me, that I didn't internally feel as being aggressive. But unless I'm being filmed and recorded, I can't really tell what that looked like to other people and what their experience was. And it could be that I was behaving in an aggressive way. I can say, from my memory, I didn't feel aggressive, but we don't really know. Our memory is very selective about what it remembers. And then there's also the other part, that a lot of the time we're in denial about what we feel because we're cut off from our bodies. I kind of feel that I'm very observant about my body. So I feel like most of the time if I'm conscious of what's happening on my body level, but not all the time, like I get it wrong. But I really wouldn't know, like if somebody said you were behaving aggressively yesterday, unless my body said, unless I remembered that my body was feeling aggressive, I can't tell what I looked like. We can't ever know what we are. So that's their opinion, and that's what they felt about you, and that's totally valid because that's their experience. It doesn't mean it's right. So if they've got an open mind, they can also see that it might not be right what they're saying, but that's what they feel. It also doesn't mean that you don't apologize and say, oh, I'm sorry, even though we know there's no chooser and we know there's no doer and I couldn't have been any other way. Like, it doesn't mean that you don't say sorry, because that's a really inappropriate thing to do on the human level. To apologize, but it's also knowing that who's apologizing. It couldn't have been any other way. We're like robots spinning out, doing our actions. And I don't mention this very much, I don't think, but I also believe in, I don't just believe in our behavior being connected to this life. I also think it comes from previous lives as well. So it's the way your parents conditioned you, your psychology, your genetics, and then karma, like previous lives. I suppose karma's in this life, but your previous life's karma. So it's all those things that are acting out, and we can't help any of that. It's what's happening. How does that relate to you?
It all does. I don't have the words to add to that. I kind of already know everything you're saying, but it's so wonderful to hear
Yeah,
it being echoed. And when you said we're not the doer, I just want to come back to that
yeah,
and that, when I'm caught up in feeling disappointed or my expectations are not met, um, there's this assumption that I can change things, or not. There's this assumption that there's somebody behind here that's hurting,
mm,
and that I don't know what to do about it.
yeah,
And it relieves me to remember
yeah,
that there is nobody there.
yeah, yeah. And that's what's happening, and that pain and that hurt's got to be there until it passes. On the human level, if I could recommend anything, but knowing that when I recommend something, whether or not you do it is totally God's will, it's like I put it out there, is just trying to stay present to the experience, unless you're being very traumatized. So if you're having a very strong, like, traumatic response, then just distract yourself, put on music, do something else. But if it's like just a mellow glow in the background, just try to stay present to it, like, and notice like your distractions. You're wanting to play on the phone, you're wanting to run away, you're wanting to stuff your face with food or whatever it is that, or call them, or speak to them, or try and sort it out. Just notice the urges, and none of that is wrong. That's just the way it's programmed. It's just like the TV playing a film, really. I mean, it's that impersonal. It's like you're like a film playing out, and then there's a little person there saying, that's me, I should have done it differently, they should have done it differently, I should fix this, I should be better than this, or I shouldn't be better than this. But it's really like a film playing out
Mm-hmm.
with the illusion of free will.
And it was nice that you reminded us that hopefully we'll all be back to normal in June or in the summer, and it would be nice that. I think that's part of the reason why I'm reacting so excessively is because this pandemic has really altered not only our expectations of people
Yeah,
and what they're able to deliver. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, totally.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, Lisa.
I do think that there is going to be a mental health effect from COVID, the being locked in.
Mm.
I think that people that aren't trained in meditation and in this subject, it's going to be especially hard. Like, I mean, I'm not sure what it's like in America, but in like UK, which I know the best, even though I don't live in the UK, it's sometimes hard for me to determine the rules in mainland Europe. But in the UK, they're currently, most people are locked down and can only meet one other person while out walking.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a lot of people are single, and so they're locked down single in a flat, in a small space. Maybe they already have mental health issues. And I think this is really going to have an effect on people. I think there's going to be a big rise in people needing to get antidepressants to get their
Yeah.
serotonin back up. Because I think that a lot of people rely on social interactions to keep dopamine and serotonin moving. And if that level goes down in a lot of people, I think they'll have to, if they've not got meditation, they've not got this subject, then they'll have to maybe use chemicals to get back up again, like
Yeah.
to get it running again. I think it's really taking away, and then also the stress that it must put onto a lot of people
Yeah.
that have kids, the schools are shut, and then businesses, like people that are self-employed.
Yeah.
It's
My heart breaks
yeah,
for that so many people are having such a difficult time,
yeah,
and I wish I could do something for everybody. It breaks my heart.
and we are a collective animal, so it's like I feel that if it affects all of us, if the mental health of a lot of people go down, like we're all energetically connected, so it affects everybody. So you do notice that some people that are into spirituality are really finding energetically this tough as well, because like this, it's like we're all connected on an energetic level.
Yeah, and I live alone
Oh, you do?
with my cat,
Oh, yeah,
with my cat, so I can really relate to how you were describing relationships with animals.
yeah,
But one of the things I do to transcend my quarantine, because I am older and I have heart disease, so I'm very strict.
oh,
I
yeah,
follow the quarantine very strictly. And what I do is I volunteer a lot. I do a lot of volunteer work online. I teach English as a second language, and I'm a sign language interpreter for the deaf. So I teach little kids in this class on during the week, and that makes me feel so good to really get beyond, transcend myself, and help somebody.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, actually, to do something like that. Yeah, I've got family members that are by themselves, so that inspires me to mention that to them and bring that up. Not that they can do sign language. Is it sign language you said you can do?
Yeah, I'm a licensed interpreter. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'm sure there's something they could do in that vein.
But you don't have to do that. I mean, if I didn't have those skills, I know there's lots of volunteer positions where you can provide companionship or conversation with people in senior homes and things like that.
Oh, nice. Yeah, this is such a good idea. Yeah, I really didn't think about this type of thing. Yeah. I'm
sure they're out there, and everybody can teach English as a second language. I'm not a licensed teacher, but we crawl our way up from the bottom somehow, and it's working. So
yeah, this is a great idea. Yeah, this inspires me to tell some of my relatives about it.
Well, your talk was very inspiring, and I'm very grateful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to speak to you. Goodbye.
Bye, Lisa.
Nice. So just a reminder, if you want to speak, just put call me so I can see it. Otherwise I won't see it, and I will take preference to speaking to someone. Hey, Nick. Ah, that's so beautiful. Has it got a fish in it? It's got little fishies in it. Little puffer fish. Or maybe they're not fishies. Hi, Andre. Hi, Lisa. Best wishes. Sound is a bit off today. Some teachers say being... Yes, it was off. Yeah, and thank you for saying, Andre, at that time. That's really great to say it to me, because otherwise I do the whole talk and I don't notice. I'd plugged in my microphone into the wrong hole, which is something I do often. Some teachers say beingness, I amness, is permanent. Others say it's not. Can you talk about that? Yeah, that's interesting, eh? Where did you go, Andre? You disappeared. Oh, yeah. Here. I don't know what they mean by all of these definitions. So traditionally, the way it's taught is that there is nothingness. Then the first thing that comes in is consciousness. Then the body comes in, because consciousness needs a body to look through. And as soon as the body arises, I am arises. And then the last thing is everything. And so that's the traditional way of teaching it. So it's nothing, consciousness, body, I am, and then the world. But really, they're like this. It's not separated out. And so some teachers would say that nothingness is the source of everything, so that is the only constant. And they might say that beingness goes in nothingness. So when there is absolutely nothingness, even that beingness or that I am goes. But also consciousness would go in that. But you could also look at it from a different angle, where you say that consciousness is not being conscious of anything, so consciousness doesn't go. To me, I don't really know the correct way to say it. I just express it the way that I do, and I don't really know, when we get to these different layers, the intellectual correctness. All I know is that freedom is this moment, is this emptiness, which is all things. My perspective is, if I were to say anything, is that nothingness never exists, so we only ever experience existence. So therefore there will always be this sense of being, because you can't have one without the other. Like, nothing if we just go into a pure state of nothingness, there is no existence there. So then there would just be instantaneous awakeness again. So imagine like if we went into nothingness for like 2 billion years, that 2 billion years from nothingness perspective is instantaneous. You only know the 2 billion years from the place of existence. So in a way it's impossible for it to be any time, so it will just be instantaneous. So if life goes back into nothingness, so into no expression, then it will instantaneously express again, because even if it sits there for whatever amount of time, that time doesn't exist, so it will just be instant. Time can only be judged in the world of form. So that would be like what it feels like, or what comes here. It doesn't feel like it here, but what comes here to be said. But there is no right or wrong answer to that. That's all really existential, and we're using our limited words to try and express it. The most important thing, I think, is the recognition that who you are is this emptiness and fullness, this I am, this love that's appearing right here. And in that, everything disappears. Relationship, other people, the world, empathy, compassion, excitement, joy, all of that disappears in this moment. There is only what is, which is like even when you hear that sound, it's like it's gone. Danke, Andre. Hi, Isabel. Happy New Year. Hi, Dennis. Thank you so much, Dennis, for reminding me at the beginning of the talk. That's really helpful that you did that, and that you put it in really big words so I saw it instantly. Hi, dear friend Lisa. Please say something about the difference between using the word I before enlightenment, awakening, and then using the word I after enlightenment, awakening. Not using I and carrying on conversations can be really weird. Happy New Year, your friend Dennis in Kentucky. Well, I think that often when people have awakening, an energetic awakening, the tendency is to not use the word I, but that's not really recommendable. So a tendency can be to talk in the third person, but it just doesn't really work well in society. So you more than likely will train yourself again to use the word I, but not all the time. It's only a word, I, and it's the way that these bodies are described. So I went and got the chopping. I sat on the bed. And there's not really an I in there, but it's describing what these bodies have done to the other bodies, so there can be communication. What else should I do? How do I go to the shops? How do I buy a banana? It's very handy in communication, but there's no I there. There is nobody there. Who is there, Dennis? Who is there? Who is there? Who? So remember, if you want me to call you, just put call me so I can see it. Hey Jonas, hi Lisa, I wish you a happy new year. Thank you, Jonas. I wish you a happy new year too. Hi Sati. Hello Lisa. Listening to you has resonated so deeply. Thank you for your direction and honesty. Can you speak about non-dual teachers in intimate relationships with their students behind closed doors and the role of a teacher in healing your karma? Hey Sati. Can you speak about non-dual teachers in intimate relationships with their students behind closed doors and the role of a teacher in healing the karma? Well, I'll just open the door on me. I come out of the closet. My partner, I met him on my retreat. So I am one of those closed door teachers. except I don't hide it. Yeah. So I think now I'm so glad that me and him that happened and that we have a relationship. But I think now I don't think I would do it again. I think for me personally, if they come to a talk or if they come to a retreat and I don't really know them, to me it doesn't really, and they don't really know me, to me it doesn't really feel too problematic. But if I was doing sessions with someone on a regular basis, like one-to-one, I've been doing sessions with someone, I think this would be a lot more problematic. And I understand that a lot better now. I didn't understand it in the beginning. You know, when I first became a teacher, I didn't really even recognize that I was a teacher. So I crossed lots of boundaries. And everything was love, and it was really hard to see. But now I understand intellectually a lot more of the problems that can emerge. Having said that, at the same time, it's like scales, like weighing things up. So I had a teacher who was my partner, and I met him in the same line, actually, a little bit like my partner did, is that I met him a bit outside of talks, and he didn't have any other students, and I just wouldn't swap that for the world. It was with Roger Castillo. Maybe many of you know him. It was just such an amazing experience, but it was really difficult, and I can see why it can be difficult, because it's hard to explain. Like, on one hand, having that reminder every day and being with someone that reminds you of this every day and like has that stillness and clarity is really beautiful. But the downside of it is like is like with me and Rod, like it can become very unbalanced. So I can't, well, I sometimes, it could be, maybe not me, but it could be you sometimes can't be heard so much in that. But that's also really great, you know. I'm torn on this subject because I loved what happened with me and Roger, but it was also really hard, and I can also see how from the outside it could look like it has an element of dysfunction in it, because you've got this lower and higher dynamic going on. Maybe that's a good way to put it. So yeah, so I'm torn. I don't know what my partner would say. I suspect, and maybe he doesn't want me to talk about this, but so you might see this video deleted after it gets uploaded. I would suspect one of the hard things that he would say, I was forgotten what I was going to say then. I would say one thing is it can be disempowering maybe for him, because kind of like half out of the game. Yeah, you can see that. Yeah, but I can also, I also think that he would also say that I have a really good effect on him as well. So I can see that. But this is maybe becoming a bit too personal, and maybe I'm crossing boundaries talking about him, because that's his situation and his feelings, and I'm presuming what he might say or not say. The other difficulty that I've realized is that when people are relationally traumatized, there is so many different things that can happen. And I've mentioned this before in a talk, and this can happen between men and women, but it tends to happen, I think, and maybe this is a sexist comment, I don't know the statistics on it, I think it tends to happen between women and men, rather than men and with women, is that women can have this dynamic where when somebody that comes onto them sexually in a powerful position, they can't say no because of trauma in childhood. And I think that, like, often this can also happen to men as well. So I don't think but I just think that the percentage will be higher for women. And so this is why it can become very difficult to be, say, a male teacher and to sleep with your students. And I can really understand the dilemma, because when you have these awakenings, you feel so much love, and there always can be lots of sexuality. And then you have these women coming to you that want attention. And so then they unconsciously maybe use sexuality to get attention. And then the man sleeps with the woman student. But what the man doesn't realize is that maybe the woman gets triggered from that situation, like fear gets triggered from them being powerful, and they can't say no. And I think a lot of women can relate to that. Like, I know for sure that's happened to me lots of times before. Yeah, they might not even really be conscious of it. So there's all these different dynamics can happen, and this is why a lot of people recommend not doing this type of thing. However, having said all of that, I would never give up what I experienced with Roger, and I would do it again. And in the end, I'm not condoning anything, but in the end, if you look at life right, that everything is a teaching, then everything will be a teaching and help you to expand. So I've also met non-duality teachers that want to regulate non-duality teachers. So you can only teach non-duality if you follow certain rules, and I wouldn't subscribe to that, not because of me, because of like sleeping with lots of students or anything, not because of that, because I think as soon as you regulate it, you take out the magic of it. Like, this process is really uncontrollable and undefinable and unknowable, and who knows like what should or shouldn't be and what is right and wrong in the end. Oh God, I gotta get shot for saying this. And I say that with the idea that I could change after further discussion with people. So if I talked about it for long periods of time, maybe my mind would be changed. And I, grew up, I started in this subject very young, and I grew up in this, and I had many male teachers come on to me. I had many that didn't as well. And I wouldn't change that. The only thing that I would change, if there was anything, is just more information around the freeze thing. So more information around like understanding like that I was freezing in a situation, or being pleasing to the other person sexually. Yeah. And I also know, I'm a fan of Osho, and I, with people I practiced like really extreme things, and I wouldn't personally change it. I learnt so much about my body, my mechanism. I can also see how it was a bit traumatizing, but it was also just to really let go and really understand like the sexuality, the wants, the needs in this body. It was a really amazing experience for me on a human level. So yeah, maybe you have something saying back to that. Maybe I've lost lots of viewers now because they found out that I am a closed door, that I met my partner, my husband, whatever you want to call us, on a retreat. Ooh. Yeah. The other problem is that even if I didn't meet somebody on a retreat, if they were suffering, I would become their teacher. Even if I didn't ever mention a word about non-duality, energetically, I'd become their teacher. It's just what this energy does, is it just goes out into environment. It can just as, yeah. I didn't think we'd go on to that sati today. It's an interesting subject. I feel the same way and love your perspective, but I struggle with the lack of transparency. Yeah. Yeah, transparency would be nice, but I know with myself, like, and there's some things that maybe I'm not so transparent on, but it's mostly because I don't want to expose myself on the internet in that way. So like there's things that I don't really talk about, which I've done in my life, and yeah. Yeah, and relationships that I've had and these types of things, because I don't want like to expose myself or other people on the internet, because I still have a mother that all goes back to. Yeah, I love dearly, and I'm sure that I've embarrassed her so much. Yeah. And I do say stuff, but imagine you going on the internet every week, and I have said stuff before about sexuality and things that I've done. I've been very experimental in my life. I've tried almost everything, I would say, within the law, within consent or within, whatever you call it. And, like so many different things. And I wouldn't even be opposed to exploring it now, if the energy comes up to explore really weird sexuality or something. But my mum does get back to her these types of things sometimes. My poor mum, and she's got relatives and she's got friends. So that's what my comment would be, is that it's quite hardcore exposing yourself. Like, so you might look at a teacher and think they should be more transparent, and I agree. I would love more transparency too, so that you really know what you're getting. But at the same time, it's also hard to to do. So imagine if you're like a 70-year-old man, you know, and you're a satsang teacher and you're dating a 25-year-old woman, you know, that's very controversial. Like, I just imagine myself, you know, if I was like 65, 70 years old, and then I like had this like 20-something man. And I'm all like, and then I write it on my website, just so everybody knows I'm dating a 22-year-old student. But yeah, but I agree that they, you know, it would be nice for them to step into that and to show that, you know. I agree. But it's yeah, I can imagine it's tough. As well. Yeah. And also, you know, the other perspective, if you look even more into it, is that when you're in that love space, like, so when you're just in pure non-duality, like there is no right or wrong or good or bad, and that's really hardcore. Like, it more than likely makes the person's actions more compassionate, but it also can't see goodness or badness. It's like you become like an animal again. Like, more simple than an animal. It's just this pure watching that loves everything. So it's like there is no good or bad. Like, I can really see how this can all be a disaster. Like, you have these awakenings, and especially for a man, and then all this sexuality. I mean, it just can be a disaster, because to the man, if they have the same experiences that I had, is you just feel love for everything, and you can't really perceive things in time. Like, you really have to think to be able to perceive if something's good or bad or right or wrong. Like, it's all love. So I'm not suggesting that the person would become this mass killer or anything, but, you know, maybe if they're like really like having this massive strong awakening energy, they can't perceive goodness or badness. And then this awakening stuff can bring up lots of sexual energy. Like, I remember, like, when I had this awakening, like, I saw a dog dying on the street, and it was just so beautiful. Like, there was so much love in it. It was so perfect. Like, it was just so free. It was like God was holding this dog, and I couldn't see any badness in it. And I can imagine if I had also seen someone knocked over and killed by a car, there would be the same response, like so much love. But this awakening stuff isn't for the faint-hearted. It's really like what is the here? When you really like go into the absolute, there is just love everywhere. Everything is perfect. And then I can imagine it being really complex and really abstract to then be saying to the person, but you can't sleep with young women, like they know that, and I'm sure they're not going to go and sleep with kids or anything like this, because they know there's. But it's also really, you're just totally free of any convention, of anything. Like, good and bad is something that we learn in the human world. And that, hopefully, if you have awakening, is so ingrained in the body, there is knowing of it, of boundaries and stuff. So I can imagine from teacher's perspective, you know, like a 70-year-old dating a 22-year-old, I could see the psychological problems that could create for a 22-year-old girl and the difficulties there. But from the teacher's perspective that's had this awakening, they can't see themselves as a teacher and they can't see themselves as 70. There is just love wanting to express itself. And then a young, beautiful woman comes and comes onto them or presents themselves or wants attention, and then this just happens. It arises. I can understand how it happens. I'm not saying that's right, but I can just really understand how it happens. Nice, thank you for your question, Seti. If you've got any more comment, please do, and I'll come back to you. Hey Thomas, thank you. Happy 2021. 21. Hey Addy. Hey Addy, thank you for sharing non-dual experience. It's fascinating. My question: I struggle to feel loved in a romantic relationship. No matter what I do, I just don't believe it. Do you think non-duality can help with that? Thank you, Addy. I think that this is maybe to do with your childhood and your karma. And I think looking into relational therapies could help you understand that. Do you feel love for the other person? So for me, before I had the awakening, I didn't feel love for the other person. I can imagine that if you don't feel love for the other person, it's hard to imagine the other person loving you. Because I didn't know what love was. Like, my love was conditioned. My love was based on, if you behave like this or you behave like that, then I love you. If we tell a romantic story together, then I love you. And it wasn't until the awakening and this deep love of who I am came forward that I knew what it was to love another, to truly love another, to really feel love. I didn't know what love was before that. I did know what love was. I'd had all these awakening experiences, but I didn't really know what love was in a relationship, I suppose. I'd never really been in love with someone before that. And then after that, I was in love with people. So that's maybe something you can ask yourself. So to me, non-duality is finding your true love, which is yourself. So it's going beyond conditioned love. But on the human level, we do build these relationships together, and to trust the other's love is a human dynamic which you'll have been taught in childhood from your parents. So your parents will have represented this for you, and so you can go to a therapist, relational, maybe a couple therapist, and you can look and explore these types of things, and you can understand your conditioning better of why you keep projecting the other doesn't love you. And then you can also listen to non-duality and remember that love isn't conditioned. So for true love between two people is to be present. Is present. Nice. Thanks, Eddie. Hi, Gerald. Hi, Richard. Thanks, Lisa. Very honest, insightful, and lovely. And lots of people I know love you because you're refreshingly real. Oh, nice. Thanks, Richard. I think that was about the relationship stuff. Hi, Sergey. Do you see others as point of consciousness that represent yourself looking at you? I see others primarily as love, as this emptiness. And then I also see them on the human level. So when I start in time, I can see them as a character that's moving. So Khaleesi has a character. In the moment, her presence is just love. And I can only see that through presence. And then when I start using my mind, I can imagine and think about their character that goes into time. But that's not who they truly are. That's just a character, and everything that I think about them isn't actually what they're presenting. It's just a movement of energy, presenting a picture of someone, an image of someone that's not real. But in the moment, like what I see is presence. Thanks, Sergi. Hey, Isabel. Hey, Adam. Hi, Adam. Hi, Lisa. Thank you. I think what you have talked about tonight is recognized in the traditions like the 10 balls in Zen. There's reaching the source and then coming back to society. I know for me it's still about reaching the source. It can be really confusing when you don't know the infinite part of yourself, that expanded sense of yourself. Yeah. So on your mind level, you don't know yourself. So the mind, the person, the character hasn't recognized itself. But as consciousness, that which is listening to me now, that which is experiencing me now, it knows itself. Consciousness always knows itself. So source knows itself, and who you truly are is source. But the character, you're looking in the character doesn't know, and the character never will know. What will begin to happen is the cracks in the character will form, and then something deeper is known. But the character can only know it as a story. And that's really beautiful because you can, on the character level, you can recognize leaving home, so you can recognize going back to home. But that's all the character can recognize. So they know what it was like to be contracted, and then they know what it's like not to be contracted. But from consciousness, from this moment, from presence, all of that is here and free. So your essence is free, even if you as a character don't feel free. Thank you, Adam. Hi, Anu. Nice to hear from you. Hi, Elango. Elango. I really need the toilet, but I'm doing what I do at night. I so often do this at night or in the early morning. I wake up and I need the toilet and I just won't go. I hold it in because I can't be bothered to move. Could you say something about self-hate, love? Hey, Jonas. Yeah, sure. Self-hate. So to me, hate, I think, is maybe the opposite to who you truly are. So it's like hate is like pure contraction. So hate is the belief, is really the belief that there is somebody in there separate, and there really is somebody out there separate, and that you hate them or you hate yourself because it hasn't gone the way you wanted it. So it's like hating the other person because they've behaved in a way which isn't likable to you. Like you hate them because of they've been too loud or too noisy or too quick, or they behaved like this, or they're passive aggressive, or you hate yourself because you failed or you didn't do something. And it's based on this idea that there really is somebody in there doing, and there's nobody doing. And so it's just seeing again and again repetitively that it's not true, that you're not to blame, that you've done nothing wrong. And it's mostly the solar plexus and the sacral chakra that's really contracted and sore. So you could give them a rub as well, like that you are the controller, that you're the doer. Hi, Marianne. Ah, nice to see you. Dear Lisa, thank you for your great honesty last time. Your answer to my question concerning getting lost in thinking was of great help. Love your talks. Thank you so much. Love, Marianne. Oh, nice. Yeah, sometimes like you have to go to these extremes. So you do meditation, you believe that it's about getting rid of thinking, and like you really focus on thinking, getting rid of it and seeing beyond it and seeing past it. And then you get to a point where you can begin to let that go, because that becomes another attachment. That it's about thinking. Hi, Dejan. I think your question just disappeared when I befriended you. So you have to send it. Oh, there it's back. What perceives its own non-existence, never existence? Such glimpses are often seen. Is this another layer of illusion? Seems like should be an impossibility, but the unknowable doesn't follow rules. It is known in this moment. So, and then the mind can remember that, but what the mind remembers is never accurate. But it can be known in this moment, like this deep knowing of presence that doesn't leave, that's always here. This deep connection to source. And then the mind can remember the before and after, it can remember that change and that movement. So it's just seeing that. Hey Anik, Happy New Year, Lisa, and thank you for the ongoing offering. It's a pleasure, Anik. This is from Randy. Yeah, it's hard to deal with reality for some time after enlightenment, but doing actions in the world is the purpose. Krishna recommended being one with the universe, but do the actions nevertheless. Karma yoga. Oh, nice. Thanks, Randy, for sharing. Aloha, Camilla. Lots of love and gratitude to you. Hi, Nora. Happy New Year, dear Lisa. You have been a great blessing to me this year. Love, Nora from Sacramento. Thanks, Nora. Oh, nice. Thank you. Take out my earphones. Yeah, I'm not answering any more questions because there is none. But maybe we go in a moment. Just enjoying sitting. Nice. Thanks, guys. It's lovely to share with you. I wish you all a beautiful week and Happy New Year. And I shall see you next Sunday. And yeah, if you go to book a session, it says it's fully booked, but it's not fully booked, especially for those people that regularly do it. They're like, she's booked out for the whole year already. You just have to look further in the diary and you'll see the session times.